Hello, my name is Dallas, and I wanted to review some books I've read recently because it's a lot. I don't usually read this much, but I was finding some incredible books and I just wanted to talk about them. Though I apologize in advance because my thoughts tend to go everywhere, so I hope my explanations aren't too chaotic. Also, my reviews will probably be kind of short. Maybe, I don't know. Because I usually get to the point if it sucked or not when I talk to people about books, unless I have something super profound to say. So, I'm not gonna be like fancy or anything. I'm sorry. That's not your thing. Don't worry about it. It's all good. I won't be hurt about that. So, let's hop into it. I'm just gonna read the description from Goodreads because I'm terrible at describing books coherently without being, and they did this, and they did that. Not gonna do that. I'm just gonna read the description. It's just gonna be easier. So the first book is A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. After touring the rural areas of Panga, sibling Dex, a tea monk of some renown, and Moscap, a robot sent on a quest to determine what humanity really needs, turn their attention to the villages and cities of the little moon they call home. They hope to find the answers they seek while making new friends, learning new concepts, and experience the entropic nature of the universe. Becky Chambers' new series continues to ask, in a world where people have what they want, does having more even matter? They're going to need to ask it a lot. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. This is the second book in the Monk and Robot series, and it was just as beautiful as the first one. I've never felt so at peace while reading a book. This one didn't have much going on, but it was a little more in depth than the first one, and was still really profound. Moscap is finally asking the question, what do humans need? And that's such a complicated question because everyone is different. What I need is different from what you need. Some people need basic help with something. Others need something that is sometimes impossible to give, such as love. And you can only give so much before wearing yourself out. Dex was dealing with a lot more in this one, I feel like, too. More anxiety and depression. And I love how Becky Chambers handles it. It's so real and beautiful and heartbreaking. I feel like mental health kind of gets overshadowed a lot in books, but here it wraps itself so perfectly and naturally into the plot. I really don't know how to describe how this book feels for me, besides like a soft blanket or a rainy day in autumn. It's just super good. The next book is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Rylan Grace is the sole survivor on a desperate last-chance mission, and if he fails, humanity and the Earth will perish. Except that, right now, he doesn't know that. He can't even remember his own name, let alone the nature of his assignment or how to complete it. All he knows is that he's been asleep for a very, very long time, and he's just awakened to find himself millions of miles from home, with nothing but 2 corpses for company. His crewmate's dead, his memories fuzzily returning. Rylan realizes that an impossible task now confronts him. Hurling through space on this tiny ship, it's up to him to puzzle out an impossible scientific mystery and conquer an extinction-level threat to our species. And with the clock ticking down and the nearest human being light years away, he's got to do it all alone. Or does he? This was a 10 out of 10 for me because science. If you don't like science, then this book will bore the heck out of you. But I like science, and this book was very science-heavy, so be warned. Though there were times when I was getting a bit overwhelmed by how much information there was, but you could tell how much Andy Weir loves science and sci-fi. Everything was so well researched and put together and well explained. This book was hilarious. I laughed out loud multiple times, and the mystery and revealing the plot was so interesting and wild. This book was really, really good. I would definitely recommend it. The next book is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. Georgetown, Washington, D.C., actress and divorced mother Chris McNeil starts to experience difficulties with her usually sweet-natured 11-year-old daughter, Reagan. The child becomes afflicted by spasms, convulsions, and unsettling insomniac episodes. These abruptly worsen into violent fits of appalling, foul-mouthed curses accompanied by physical mutation. Medical science is baffled by Reagan's plight and her increasing despair. Chris turns to troubled priest and psychiatrist Damien Karras, who immediately recognizes something profoundly malevolent in Reagan's distorted features and speech. On Kara's recommendation, the church summons Father Marin, a specialist in the exorcism of demons. This was a 7 out of 10 for me. Reading this at work was really funny because everyone who came in was like, oh my god, why? Oh my god, they're reading The Exorcist. And every time I had to be like, it's not that bad. I could totally see why this would have been terrifying in the 60s, 70s, and 80s though, but I didn't find it scary at all. Definitely gross and disturbing, but not scary. Also, I really liked the research that was put into this to make it seem more realistic. The characters tried making it seem like Regan definitely had something mentally wrong, and not that she was possessed. A lot of medical research went into this, and it really shows. It also seems like the movie did a pretty good job following the book, which I didn't find scary either. But yeah, it was okay. The next book is Summer Sons by Mandelo. Andrew and Eddie did everything together. Best friends bonded more deeply than brothers, until Eddie left Andrew behind to start his graduate program at Vanderbilt. 6 months later, only days before Andrew was to join him in Nashville, Eddie dies of an apparent suicide. He leaves Andrew a horrible inheritance, a roommate he doesn't know, friends he never asked for, and a gruesome phantom with bleeding wrists that mutters of revenge. As Andrew searches for the truth of Eddie's death, he uncovers the lies and secrets left behind by the person he trusted most, discovering a family history soaked in blood and death. Whirling between the backstabbing academic world where Eddie spent his days and the circle of hot boys, fast cars, and hard drugs that ruled Eddie's nights, the walls Andrew has built against the world begin to crumble, letting in the phantom that hungers for him. This was an 8 out of 10 for me. This was Spicy Raven Cycle. Not jaclyn, Spicy Raven Cycle. This was so good and so spicy, and chef's kiss. Good book and good writing. Also, I appreciate and respect the ending. Thank you, Mandelo. A lot of authors will be like, hey, this traumatic thing happened, but let's make up anyway. But Mandelo was like, no, you messed up and I still like you, but you messed up and I need space. I do have one issue, and that was Andrew being a stubborn ass for a majority of the book. Like, let people help you, my dude. You need help. Stop being a bad boy and get some help. Holy crap. He finally does, but it's like, oh. Still good though. It totally lives up to the, like, spoopy hype. I liked it. The next book is The Extremely Inconvenient Adventures of Bronte, Mettlestone by Jaclyn Moriarty. Bronte Mettlestone is 10 years old when her parents are killed by pirates. This does not bother her particularly. Her parents ran away to have adventures when she was a baby. She has been raised by her Aunt Isabel with assistance from the butler, and has spent a pleasant childhood of afternoon teas and writing lessons. Now, however, her parents have left detailed instructions for Bronte in their will. Instructions that, annoyingly, have been reinforced with very cross-stitch, which means that if she doesn't complete them, terrible things could happen. She travels the kingdoms perfectly alone, delivering gifts to 10 other aunts. A farmer aunt who owns an orange orchard, a veterinarian aunt who specializes in dragon care, a pair of aunts who captain a cruise ship, and a former rock star aunt who is now the reigning monarch of a small kingdom. But as she travels from aunt to aunt, Bronte suspects there might be more to this journey than the simple delivery of treasure. This was a 6 out of 10 for me. I didn't hate this book, but I also didn't like it that much. It was very, very fast-paced, which is fine for a kid's book, but I kind of felt like I was getting whiplash. I liked it more towards the end, but the beginning was I also didn't like some of the ants. Some were really annoying, but most of them were okay. Also, this book was almost too overly sassy, and it was kind of irritating sometimes, but still bare enough to get through. Also, I've met some smart and mature 10-year-olds, but Bronte was overly mature for a 10-year-old, and it was throwing me off most of the time. I totally understand that kids are hard to write, but please, can we not write them overly mature? They're 10. So, it was cute, kind of weird, not the worst, but eh. The next book is Scary Stories for Young Foxes by Christian mckay Heidicker. The haunted season has arrived in the Antler Wood. No fox kit is safe. When Mia and Uli are separated from their litters, they discover a dangerous world full of monsters. In order to find a den to call home, they must venture through field and forest, facing unspeakable things that dwell in the darkness. A zombie who hungers for their flesh, a witch who tries to steal their skins, a ghost who hunts them through the snow, and other things too scary to mention. This was an 8 out of 10 for me. My first thought when I started reading this book, I'm like, this is a kid's book? This was so brutal. Like, I finished it and was like, what just happened? This was survival horror with talking foxes, and it doesn't shy away from the brutality of the animal kingdom, but making it much more terrifying in the eyes of young foxes who are just trying to survive. I really enjoyed this and definitely got spooked by it, and even got the second book because I thought it was pretty good. Pretty spooky. I liked it. The next book is Amber and Clay by Laura Amy Schlitz. I think that's how you say her last name. Welcome to ancient Greece, as only genius storyteller Laura Amy Schlitz can conjure it. In a warlike land of wind and sunlight, ringed by a restless sea, live Raskos and Mettlestone, spiritual twins with little in common beyond the violent and mysterious forces that dictate their lives. A Thracian slave in a Greek household, Raskos is as common as clay, a stable boy worth less than a donkey, much less than a horse. Wrenched from his mother at a tender age, he nurtures in secret, aided by Socrates, his passions for art and philosophy. Mettlestone is a spoiled aristocrat, a girl as precious as Amber, but willful and wild. She'll marry and be tamed, the curse of all highborn girls, but risk her life for a season first to serve Artemis, goddess of the hunt. Bound by destiny, Mettlestone and Raskos, Amber and Clay, never meet in the flesh. By the time they do, one of them is a ghost. But the thin line between life and death is just one boundary their unlikely friendship crosses. It takes an army of snarky gods and fearsome goddesses, slaves and masters, mothers and philosophers, to help shape their story into a gorgeously distilled symphonic tour de force. Blending verse, prose, and illustrated archaeological artifacts, this is a tale that vividly transcends time, an indelible reminder of the power of language to illuminate the over- and underworlds of human history. This was a 9 out of 10 for me. This was, wow, an interesting and beautifully written book. The description on the back does not fully prepare you for how incredible this book was. It was raw and powerful, and it drew me in immediately. The writing is mostly in poetry style, which makes for a quick read, and it's a hefty book. I love when the gods and goddesses were pulled in and talked about how they felt about the situation, especially Hermes, because everyone writes him super funny, and I love it. Like, everyone, like, Rick Riordan, like, every author I've seen write him, he's always super funny. This book made me laugh, made my heart break, made me angry and disgusted, but that just made me love it more. It was very well researched as well. I love history, and I could tell a lot of hard work went into writing this book and making it legit. Though be warned, it does have some warnings like grief, slavery, child abuse, execution, misogyny, loss of child, animal sacrifice, infertility, references to animal abuse and death. But that's unfortunately history, but I really don't let that stop you from reading this because it's really, really good. I flew through it so fast and I just could not stop reading it. It was just so beautiful. And finally we have A Strange and Stubborn Endurance by Foz Meadows. I'm gonna butcher all these names, I apologize. Fantasy names. A. Bellicin Van Aro never planned to marry at all, let alone a girl from neighboring Tithena. When an ugly confrontation reveals his preference for men, Vel fears he ruined the diplomatic union before it can even begin. But while his family is ready to disown him, Titheni envoy has a different solution for Vel to marry his former intendant's brother instead. Katari Aduria always knew he might end up in a political marriage, but his sudden betrothal to a man from Walia, where such relationships are forbidden, comes as a shock. With an unknown faction willing to kill to end their new alliance, Vel and Kay have no choice but to trust each other. Survival is one thing, but love, as both will learn, is quite another. Byzantine politics, lush sexual energy, and a queer love story that is by turns sweet and sultry, A Strange and Stubborn Endurance is an exploration of gender, identity, and self-worth. It is a book that will live in your heart long after you turn the last page. This was a 10 out of 10 for me. I want to start out by saying that I'm really sad that people gave up this book because of the assault scene. First of all, you were warned. Second of all, y'all are missing out on a super good book. I flew through this thing in like 2 days. It is 500 plus pages. I completely understand if it's too triggering even after being warned, but I didn't think it was that bad, to be honest, and it's only like a page or so at the very beginning. I hope I don't sound dismissive of feelings or anything, because I'm not. I've been in that situation or something close. So I totally understand if too much is too much. But it's just kind of frustrating how aggressive I've seen people being towards this book for such a short scene. I think Captive Prince was way worse, and people swear up and down by that book and don't smash on it as much as I've seen people dunk on this book. It's just kind of frustrating. I think Meadows did a really good job handling the trauma and how it affected Villasin and how it affected the story. Did it need to be there? No. But again, I think it was handled well for being there. Also, there was little to no miscommunication in the story. I was actually super shocked that the characters talked about how they felt and their thoughts. A lot of stories use miscommunication for a plot device, which is fine, but kind of annoying most of the time. But Meadows was like, nah, and it was awesome. Katari was super understanding and wanted to help Villasin and make him happy. They were so funny and adorable together, and the mystery in action was really interesting. The only real issue I had was that I had to reread the first 5 pages because the intro was a cluster of information and it was written kind of weird, but it got better after that and flowed really well. I was just like, did anyone proofread this? Also, trans and non-binary rep. Heck yeah. I like that. But yes, I really did like this. I thought it was really cute, really funny. And seriously, if you get just past that initial scene, and it's in, I think, chapter 2, it's like the book is, you still have like, I don't know, 500 still pages, and it's really good. Like, please give this book a chance. But again, I completely understand if that's triggered to you. Obviously, don't read something that's going to make you uncomfortable. It's not, yeah, don't do that. But I just wish people would stop smashing on it so hard. Just because I feel like there's worse books out there. Like, there's way worse books out there, and people will be like, those are amazing. And it's like, not really, but each to their own. My opinion. And there we have it. That's what I read the last couple months. Let me know what you've read recently. I love hearing about what other people are reading. Have a good day and happy reading.